Hi guys, I am back with another video, and on today's video we have a really highly requested topic, and that is what information you need to add to your product labels if you want to sell soap and bath bombs in Canada. And I understand why this is such a highly requested topic. Anyone who has created a legitimate business definitely wants to know exactly what to put on here, because these are guidelines and regulations as determined by our government. So you definitely want to be compliant and make sure that you're doing things correctly. It's all a part of dotting your I's and crossing your T's when it comes to your business. If you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Jerica and I am the owner and creator of Quench, which is a soap and bath bomb company. And on my channel, I talk all about my business, how I make my products, how I sell them, and even boring stuff like this, like what to include in your label so that you're selling things legitimately and following the rules. If that is something that you're into, maybe you are starting your own business, or maybe you are at the same level as me and just want to see how everyone else is doing, this is the channel for you, and please subscribe. Everyone else who has already subscribed, you guys are amazing. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. A bit of a disclaimer before I begin. Even though I will be talking about the main points when it comes to what information to include on your labels, I highly recommend that you go over to Canada.ca's website, where they list in detail exactly what are the labeling requirements for cosmetic products like soap, like bath bombs. It is a lot of information, and I definitely will not be covering everything there is to know about labels in this video, so please go and check out that document as well. And also a final note, these are all stuff that is relevant to Canadian products, so if you are an American seller, a lot of what I'm talking about today may not pertain to you. So I can definitely see why this topic has been so highly requested. When you look at Canada.ca's website, it is a ton of information, and I know that a lot of you looking at that feel instantly overwhelmed by what you need to do, because I know that a lot of you want to conduct business by following the rules, but it's definitely not as complicated as you think, and it's actually pretty straightforward. In fact, if you look at Canada.ca's website, in their labeling of cosmetics guideline, within the first few scrolls of the page, they immediately list what you must include on labels. And those things are an ingredient list, the identity of the product, a statement of net quantity, the name and address of the manufacturer, warnings or cautions in both English and French, and directions for safe use. So out of those 6 things, only 2 things need to be at the very front of your product. And this front part of your product, the main label, I should say, actually has an official name, and it's called the primary display panel. And on this panel, on the main panel, you only need to include 2 things: the identity statement and the net quantity of the contents. All of the other requirements can be listed on the back or on the sides, but when it comes to your main panel, those are the only 2 things that you need to include. And for those wondering what an identity statement is, it's basically what the product is and how it's used. So using soap as an example, the identity of this product would be soap. And to use other products as an example, body butters, you would have to state that it was a body butter, or a lip balm, you would have to state that it's a lip balm. And for the product identity, that must be listed in both English and in French. If you're unsure about the French translation of your item, there are plenty of soaping groups on Facebook, and a lot of people there, a lot of Canadians there, willing to answer questions like that. In addition to the product identity, you'll want to put the product name. So using this as an example, this is my French lavender soap, so I'm going to be putting the name of the product, which is simply French lavender, on my labels as well. And that is one difference between Canadian labeling requirements and American requirements. From what I understand, you're not allowed to put in any ingredients that you've used in the name of your product. That is actually allowed in Canada. And a quick note about the product name, this actually does not have to be in English and in French. It can be listed in either English or in French. So just to quickly summarize about the product identity / name, the identity of it, the nature and use of the product, which is soap, that has to be in English and French, but the actual product name does not. The next important piece of information that needs to go in the front display panel is your net quantity. And what that is the actual weight of your product. And if it's a soap, it's basically how much this bar of soap weighs. If your product is in a jar or in a bottle, it's all of the product inside of that container minus the jar or the bottle. So you only want the weight of the product. And because we are in Canada, that measurement needs to be in metric units. So for example, grams or kilograms, milliliters, liters, etc. And one little detail about the net weight, you have to have the numerical value, a space, and grams. So you can't have the numerical value and then grams all squished together. There needs to be a space between the number and then the weight. And because I also sell to the States, I include the weight in ounces, and I don't think that's a requirement when it comes to Canadian labels. So the rest of the information moving forward does not need to be on your primary display panel, but you may want to include them on there anyways for branding purposes, like I do. There are some key pieces of information that I include in the front. And the next piece of information that you must include on your products is your business name. And you want the business name on your products to be the exact same business name that you've used to register in your province. So in our case, we are registered in our province in Ontario as Quench, and I added that to my label over here. And just a side note, this business name also needs to be the same one that you submit along with your CNF forms to Health Canada. And don't worry, I will go into CNF forms in a little bit later on in the video. Another highly requested topic that I get asked about all the time. So for my products, I like to include the business name in both the front and the back. And that goes into my next point, and that is including the address of where your products are manufactured. So for a lot of you, I know that you manufacture your products at home. So unfortunately, that does mean that you will have to include your home address on this label. And as far as I know, you can't really get around this. It's a requirement when it comes to cosmetic labeling. There are some people that suggest maybe putting a PO box instead of your home address. From what I understand, you are not allowed to do that. It has to be the place where your products are manufactured. And really that is put in place in order to protect your customers so that Health Canada knows exactly where these products come from. So when it comes to my labels, I like to put them in the back underneath the ingredient list. The next thing you'll want to include in your labels is any warnings or precautions that you would like your customer to know when it comes to your product. For example, if your product is associated with an avoidable hazard, you should definitely describe how and when to use that product in order for your customer to avoid that. And a note about warnings and precautions, if you are going to list them on your product, then that has to be in both English and in French. The next very important piece of information when it comes to your labels is your ingredients. And there is definitely a right and wrong way to list your ingredients according to Health Canada. To begin, you'll want to list your ingredients in order from the most used to the least used. So using my soap as an example, the most used ingredient when it comes to my recipe is olive oil. So that would be the first ingredient listed in my ingredient list. And you'll want to go down your recipe list and make sure every subsequent ingredient is listed according to the amounts used. And this is actually also the way that you should be submitting your ingredients to Health Canada. I will get into CNF forms, don't you worry. And the last consideration that you need to know about when listing your ingredients is that all ingredients need to be listed in their common INCI form. And what INCI stands for is International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients. And this is basically the universal name for your ingredients. And because they're listed in this international nomenclature, you do not have to list it both in English and in French. If you're wondering about what the proper INCI name is of your ingredients, there are so many resources online that can help you do that. A lot of the soap suppliers that I use list the INCI along with the ingredient that they sell. And even if you get it wrong, a great thing that Health Canada does after you've submitted your ingredients for all of your product recipes, they will actually come back to you and let you know if you have gotten those ingredients wrong and also the correct term that you should be using in your labels, which is very, very helpful. So don't be too worried about listing the wrong thing. As long as you're submitting it to Health Canada, they will get back to you and provide the correct name for you in time. It does take time for them to respond to you though, so don't worry. So Health Canada and CNF forms, what is that? CNF stands for Cosmetic Notification Form. And what that is a form in which you list all of your ingredients in their common INCI in the order that they're used in your recipes, while providing also the percentage of that ingredient used in that recipe. You're submitting that into Health Canada, and what they will do is assess your recipe and let you know whether or not it is safe, and will correct you in the instance that you're using the incorrect INCI name. And after you've corrected the common I and CI names and submitted an amendment to Health Canada, they will respond with a cosmetic number that you will use to identify with your products moving forward. I won't go into all of the intricacies of the CNF today in this video. There is so much that comes with that, but if you guys are wondering about how to submit CNF forms, I would highly recommend joining a Canadian soapers group, because that is where I got a lot of my information from. And I think as Canadian soap makers and business owners, you definitely want to be in a community of other soap businesses who have gone through this before, and people are so willing to help. And because this is such a frequently asked question, a lot of these groups will actually have specific answers to your CNF questions in their files or archives that they have pinned in their group. So definitely go there if you have any further questions when it comes to Health Canada and their CNF form. So do you need the cosmetic number in order to start selling your product? No, actually, the only requirement that you need when it comes to selling your product in Canada is the submission of a cosmetic notification form to Health Canada. Once you've submitted that to Health Canada, they will give you a chance to download that form and save it, and you are good to actually begin selling your product. And just a quick note about that, if you are going to change that recipe in any way, you will need to submit a new form into Health Canada each and every time. So that is it. I really hope you found this video helpful. I know it wasn't as entertaining as my other videos, but still I think it's equally important to talk about this kind of stuff, because this is something that everyone has questions about, and I know it's something that I wondered about when I was first starting my business, because you really, really want to make sure you're doing things the right way. And it can be really difficult to find the answers to questions like the product labeling requirements for Canada. It can be buried in so much stuff. So I really hope that this video at least helped you start on your journey to begin labeling your products with some confidence. But again, know that if you get it wrong, you can always continue to evolve your labels. As long as you're hitting those main points as listed in Canada.ca's website, it is definitely a good start. If you found this kind of video helpful, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And for everyone who has already subscribed, we are marching closer and closer to 14,000. So that is just absolutely amazing. Thank you again, everyone, for supporting this little channel. So keep smiling and keep growing and keep evolving your businesses. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.